On a chilly, foggy night in a small town, everything seemed quiet. The streets were empty, and the air felt different. Residents were settling in for the evening, unaware that a tragedy was about to unfold. This town, known for its close-knit community, would soon become the center of a chilling investigation. On this night in late October, at around 10 p.m., the peace was shattered when the unthinkable happened. The first signs of trouble came from a passerby named Basil Mitchell. While walking his dog, he noticed something strange by the edge of Miller Park. The thick fog covered much of the area, but he could see something that caught his attention. As he approached, fear gripped him. Lying on the ground was a woman, unconscious and alone. Panic filled his heart as he quickly called for help. His breath came in quick gasps, and he tried to wake her, but she did not respond. When the police arrived, they found the woman still lying there. She was identified as Carina Winters, a 29-year-old local teacher. The officers quickly cordoned off the area with yellow tape, marking it as a crime scene. They knew this would be serious. For a small town, a violent incident like this was shocking. The intensity of the atmosphere began to grow heavy. The fog seemed to echo the feeling in the air, a surprising chill, a sense of panic and uncertainty. What happened to Carina? Did someone attack her? The officers found no clear signs of struggle at first glance, and this raised many questions. How did she end up here, and why? Was it an accident, or was there more to this story? As the news spread, the town was shaken. Rumors began to swirl. Some thought she might have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others believed it could be a targeted attack, as there were whispers about problems she had in her life. Friends wondered if she had recently faced any threats. Carina's friends described her as kind, thoughtful, and caring. She had a close group of friends who admired her dedication to her students. This incident felt surreal to them. In the following days, the investigation deepened. Detectives began combing through the details, searching for clues about what happened to her. Did she have enemies? Increasing fears grew among the townspeople. Could someone be targeting those in their peaceful, quiet community? TV cameras flocked to the scene, capturing the story. Interviewers spoke with locals about Carina, creating an image of her life in town. The images and stories presented depicted a happy, vibrant person whose life was now steeped in mystery. The story's impact resonated deeply with viewers, leading them to wonder about the bizarre turn of events and what lay beneath the surface in their town. Whether it was facts uncovered, witness statements collected, or theories proposed by the detectives, the investigation had only begun. Each twist and turn in the case promised to reveal more about the night's chilling events. In this scene, one thing was clear: the fog would not be the only thing obscuring the truth in the coming days. The hunt for clarity had started, leaving a community grappling with fear and uncertainty about what would come next. As news of Carina Winters' attack spread, law enforcement quickly got to work. The local police department formed a dedicated team of detectives to investigate this shocking case. Detectives Eliza Walker and Mark Hall were among those chosen to lead the investigation. They arrived at the crime scene in Miller Park early the next morning. Their goal was clear: uncover the truth about what happened to Carina. Detective Walker started by looking for any evidence left at the scene. She examined the area carefully. Every detail mattered. They collected soil samples, fingerprints, and anything else that could help. Forensics experts were called in to analyze the evidence. They needed to learn how Carina ended up on the ground that night, and if anyone else was involved. The detectives would not rest until they had answers. Simultaneously, they checked for surveillance footage from nearby businesses. The community was close-knit, and people often noticed unusual activities. Detectives hoped that video footage would reveal important information about the suspects or perhaps any familiar faces in the area that night. Many shops had cameras, and the detectives worked hard to gather all the recordings from those crucial hours. They knew that a small detail might lead them down the right path in the investigation. While this was happening, journalists began covering the case. The media was eager to report updates and seek out information from local residents. They interviewed people who frequented the park. Some called in tips, sharing snippets of their observations. Although it created a sense of excitement about finding the truth, it also added pressure to the detectives. They needed to sift through the information carefully and focus not on the noise, but on what mattered. As the investigation progressed, inconsistencies began to rise in some statements. Few community members mentioned seeing Carina at the park that night. However, two of her closest friends were acting strangely during interviews. They seemed nervous, avoiding eye contact. Detective Hall wondered if they had something to hide. The detectives would later investigate their alibis and ensure they were telling the truth about their interactions with Carina before the incident. As leads came and went, alarm bells rang within the police department. One name that kept surfacing was Jason Allen, a former boyfriend of Carina. They had been together for several years, but had split up just a few months prior. Friends described him as troubled, often dealing with anger and jealousy. However, reports claimed he had been out of town during the time of the incident. Nevertheless, detectives wanted to be sure of his whereabouts. Another name to consider was Daniel Acker, a local man with a troubled past. He recently lost his job and was seen in the area where the attack happened. Witnesses said they had spotted him near the park. His history of erratic behavior raised suspicions. Detectives felt it was important to interview both individuals closely, no matter how uncomfortable it might become. Trusting instincts would guide them as they sought justice for Carina. With each passing day, the stakes were higher. The detectives felt an urgent responsibility. Emotions ran high in the community. People wanted answers. Every clue, every suspect, increased the tension in the air. The investigation, while challenging and tense, brought hope as detectives pursued truth. People now watched closely, waiting for answers that would bring some peace to a confused town. As detectives continued their work, they found some surprising connections related to Carina's case. They discovered that few incidents had happened in the park over the years. Several months before Carina's attack, there had been a robbery. A woman reported that her purse was stolen late at night while she was walking alone. The police never found the thief. This report raised questions among the detectives. Could there be a pattern? Was the park unsafe for women? In addition to that robbery, there was a theft from a car parked close by just a week before Carina's attack. Someone broke into the car and stole valuable items. These crimes were not serious, but they made the detectives wonder. Were the same people involved in all these incidents? If there was a pattern, it might mean the attacker was familiar with the park. They wanted to dig deeper into these previous cases. Detective Walker decided to reach out to the victims of the past crimes. They needed to learn more about any similarities. Did these women notice anything strange before their incidents? Maybe a person who seemed out of place? Such connections could provide vital clues. Combining these previous incidents with Carina's case might help detectives find fresh leads. While they learned more, false leads also began to surface. One witness claimed to have seen a man near the park that night. This person provided a description that did not match anyone already looked at. His report seemed accurate at first. However, after relating the details to the detective, another witness said the first person appeared nervous. This made Detective Hall question the truthfulness of that lead. It soon became clear that some witnesses were unreliable. They might have seen something, but their memories seemed unclear. Media coverage added another layer of complexity to the investigation. Reporters quickly filled the local news with stories about Carina. While attention was helpful for awareness, it also made some suspects more cautious. People changed their stories or acted differently if they felt they might draw attention. The detectives balanced the pressure from the media with the need for truth. They knew the pressing attention could potentially disrupt the investigation. As days turned into weeks, the stress increased. Friends and family of Carina waited, hoping for answers. The frustration grew as more conflicting reports came into the police station. Many callers reported strange noises and activities at night near the park, but most were unverified. While it helped build a picture of a possible suspect, it also focused energy on wild accusations that led nowhere. Deep frustrations led to a tiring cycle of interviewing multiple people, trying to sift through credible tips from the noise. Confronted with the pressure to resolve the case, detectives began to worry about time. They repeated their strategies often in search of clarity, always looking for that piece of evidence that could solve Carina's mystery. To cope with challenges and complexities, the detectives decided to regroup. They drew connections on a board that included everything they learned so far. They highlighted witness accounts, notes from previous crimes, and any inconsistencies they uncovered. Detective Walker felt reignited by the chance to find sense in the chaos. The road was long, and with every new piece of information, hope grew stronger that the truth of what happened in that foggy night was still out there, waiting to be uncovered. The investigation stumbled upon a breakthrough that would change everything. After weeks of searching, forensic experts finally processed the evidence collected from the crime scene. They found something small but significant: a tiny amount of DNA on the ground near where Carina was found. This discovery brought renewed hope to the detectives. It could lead them directly to the person responsible for this terrible act. Once they had the DNA sample, the next step was to compare it to databases of known offenders. The detectives were eagerly waiting for results. Hours passed, and during this time, a growing sense of anticipation filled the police station. The atmosphere was heavy with expectation. Would this evidence lead them to a suspect? They knew they were on the edge of something crucial. Then, as evening approached, the breakthrough came. A call from the lab announced the DNA matched a name. It belonged to Daniel Acker, the man they had looked into early in the investigation. His troubling history and connection to the park turned out to be far more significant than they had realized. The DNA link pulled everything together, creating a chilling connection between Daniel and the crime. The detectives knew they had to act fast. Daniel Acker had been living just a few blocks away, fitting a pattern that worried them. They believed they now had the chance to bring him in for questioning. However, they also understood that he might try to flee or resist arrest. As they prepared for the arrest, the team took a moment to discuss the plan carefully. This step was vital for their safety and to ensure they could gather as much information as possible. Detective Walker, feeling both anxious and focused, emphasized the importance of a calm approach. They had to ensure that nothing went wrong during the confrontation. They gathered outside Daniel's house, men with badges ready. With lights flashing and a strong sense of purpose, they approached the home cautiously. Just as they reached the front door, they noticed the curtain moving inside. It seemed that Daniel was aware of their presence. Tension grew. The detectives knew they had to act quickly. They knocked loudly on the front door and announced their identity. With an urgent voice, Detective Hall shouted for Daniel to come outside peacefully. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then, without warning, the door flung open and Daniel appeared, looking startled. He was breathing hard, and his eyes were wide. The moment was chaotic, but the detectives remained steady. They quickly informed him they were conducting an investigation related to Carina Winters and the DNA evidence collected from the park. Daniel's demeanor changed the moment they mentioned Carina's name. He grew defensive and denied being involved. That is when the pressure mounted. With solid evidence against him, the detectives moved in as the tension escalated. They pulled out handcuffs, ready to arrest him. Daniel attempted to escape into the house, but it was too late. The detectives quickly apprehended him. The situation unfolded fast, with urgent communication amongst the officers. Once they had him securely in handcuffs, the detectives felt a mix of relief and disbelief. They had finally come closer to solving the case. In the back of the police car, Daniel continued to protest, but now he was being taken seriously. A cycle of confusion was coming to an end the truth of the foggy night beginning to take shape as the detectives prepared to head back to the station, bringing more questions and possibly answers with them. Once Daniel Acker was in the police station, the detectives began to question him. As they sat across from him in the interrogation room, the atmosphere felt tense. Detective Walker leaned forward, aiming to create a connection. "We have proof," she started. "Your DNA was found near Carina." Daniel's face changed, and a spark of fear flashed in his eyes. At first, he denied everything. "I had nothing to do with it," Daniel insisted loudly. His voice shook, a mixture of anger and panic. He argued that he was at home the whole night. The detectives pushed him to explain why his DNA was found. Would that not mean he was in the area? Daniel seemed uneasy. He glanced towards the door, possibly thinking of escape, but knew that there was nowhere to go. Detective Hall aimed to calm the situation. "Daniel," he said quietly, "it's better to tell the truth now. The evidence is against you." Daniel fidgeted in his chair. His breathing quickened, showing visible signs of pressure. The detectives exchanged glances. They knew that this reaction was a telltale sign of stress. People react differently when faced with hard truths. The tension in the room built as moments passed in silence. Finally, Daniel began to speak, but his words were not honest. He crafted a story about seeing Carina that night, claiming he was only in the park to clear his head. It was a weak explanation, and did not add up with the timeline they had gathered. When asked about his feelings towards Carina, he grew defensive again. "She wanted me out of her life," he blurted out. His outburst revealed deeper emotions. Unresolved feelings seemed to twist his thoughts and pushed him to weave a complicated story. Detective Walker recognized the tactics Daniel used to deflect responsibility. His words were meant to confuse and redirect blame. "You didn't have to hurt her," she pointed out. In that moment, the room fell silent again. They were trying to reach his core, but meeting only resistance. Daniel then tried to manipulate their emotions, saying, "You don't understand how she made me feel." As they continued to dig deeper, Daniel's anger flared again. "This is not what it seems. I never meant for it to go that far," he exclaimed. It was a confession wrapped in another layer of denial. His words danced between truth and lies. The detectives remained focused, knowing that a crack could split open if they asked the right questions. Eventually, Daniel's emotional walls began to show signs of wear. He admitted that they had an argument the week before, claiming it got out of hand. "I just wanted her to listen to me," he yelled, his frustration boiling over. But there was still no clear answer to the events of that foggy night. The detective sensed Daniel was holding back even more details. Feeling pressure but caught in a web of denial, he slipped into silence again. The detectives watched him closely, understanding his breakdown could provide further insights into his mind. The moment became crucial. Would he be courageous enough to fully confess, or would he choose to hide the truth behind more lies? They knew he was conflicted. The implications of his actions weighed heavily on him. Understanding how Daniel acted under pressure could be the key to knowing the full story of what happened to Carina that night. With hopes rising, the detectives felt certain that the truth would come out. They remained determined to navigate through the confusion built by his emotions, knowing that they were on the edge of revealing the dark rationale behind the crime. Every breath he took signaled another moment approaching clarity and connection between his actions and Carina's fate. After Daniel Acker's arrest, the legal proceedings moved forward quickly. The case became highly publicized, pulling in attention from news stations and the community. Carina's family faced a difficult journey as they prepared for the trial. The pain of losing her was immense, and now they had to relive the details of the case in public. Each new development brought fresh waves of emotion. The public was eager to see justice for Carina. In the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy. The trial began with strong evidence presented by the prosecution. They laid out the details, including the DNA evidence that tied Daniel to Carina's attack. Family members sat in tense silence, trying to hold back tears as they listened to the facts revealed. Detective Walker appeared as a witness. She detailed her investigation with clarity and brought attention to the evidence. However, Daniel's defense team also had a strategy. They sought to challenge the evidence presented, suggesting that it was circumstantial. They argued that the DNA could have come from other reasons, not connected to a crime. This unexpected twist shocked many in the gallery. Daniel appeared calm, trying to play the role of an innocent man. As the trial progressed, the prosecutors called more witnesses to the stand. Shocking testimonies came from close friends of both Carina and Daniel. Some revealed arguments and past issues that hinted at motives. Friends described Daniel as someone who could turn angry over trivial matters. Anyone listening could hear the tension rising in the courtroom as personal accounts painted a picture of the problems that shaped Daniel's emotions. One key witness was a neighbor who lived near the park. They reported hearing shouting on the night of the attack. Their words added intensity to the moment, suggesting a situation spiraled out of control. The courtroom held its breath as they recounted those hours. Carina's family felt this testimony bring them slightly closer to the truth of that terrible night. The courtroom drama intensified further as the defense attorney cross-examined each witness. Their tactics aimed to create doubt about every statement, questioning their memories and motivations. "Why should we believe you?" asked the attorney sharply, raising doubt in the minds of those present. Many felt that the defense strategy attempted to muddy the waters of the evidence. Such moments were hard for Carina's family to watch. They faced their pain while needing to witness the moves used to protect Daniel. Amidst this turmoil, Daniel finally decided to take the stand. His demeanor changed as he attempted to cast himself in a better light. He claimed that he was merely at the park that night out of chance. Facing tough questions about his past actions, Daniel insisted he meant no harm. The tension of his words left many feeling uneasy. Some recognized how he tried to shift blame rather than accept responsibility. In the coming weeks, the community buzzed with opinions about the proceedings. Many saw the trial as a moment to demand justice, rallying together to support Carina's family. The discussions about the case reached beyond the courtroom walls. People spoke about domestic violence and mental health issues, recognizing they are part of bigger conversations in society. As the trial concluded, the focus had shifted away from just Daniel's actions. The trauma Carina's family endured and their need for closure became part of a larger story. As they waited for the verdict, the sense of hope mingled with fear. Would the legal system provide the answers they desperately needed? Everyone was on edge, wondering what the verdict would bring and how it would change their community. As the trial reached its conclusion, the outcome became a focal point for the whole community. News outlets covered every moment. This case captured the country's attention more than anyone expected. As the verdict approached, people filled the courtroom seats and wired their televisions to local news. The public was eager to know what would happen. When the jury announced that Daniel was guilty of the crime, a weight lifted from Carina's family. With tears filling their eyes, they felt a mix of relief and sorrow. The community found itself united, sharing messages of support for Carina's loved ones. But the media focus did not stop there. Each local station discussed the result continuously. People began sharing their thoughts online. Many expressed joy that justice was served, while others raised questions about the entire investigation. As days unfolded after the verdict, lingering doubts crept in for a small portion of the public. Some supporters questioned whether the DNA evidence was flawless. They fanned the flames of conspiracy theories, insisting that Daniel was wrongfully accused. Was it a rush to judgment? They asked. Some believed that minutes of courtroom drama overshadowed solid facts. Detective Walker and other officers felt frustrated. They worked hard to gather evidence, and now doubt seemed to emerge. Through all of this, neighborhoods came together. Victims' advocacy groups launched campaigns aiming to raise awareness about domestic violence and public safety. They hoped to remind everyone that real lives were impacted by these crimes. Carina's name became a symbol of the fight against violence. Many shared stories and supported each other online, creating peer support groups for those affected by similar experiences. The community rallied for justice, echoing Carina's legacy. Nevertheless, Carina's family remained concerned that her story could be lost among new reports. They wanted to protect her memory by ensuring the focus stayed on the issues at hand. While the trial was over, they understood that the dialogue should continue. The discussion surrounding mental health and accessibility to support services became more vital in the area. It allowed people to express their pain and created an avenue for recovery. Despite the conviction, police still encouraged ongoing discussions about the case. They aimed to strengthen relationships with the community, listening to any nuevo leads despite Daniel's conviction. They were committed to the townspeople feeling safe in their surroundings. Detective Walker assured them it was essential to keep doors open to insight. In some cases, others could provide clarity on something previously misinterpreted or overlooked. As chapters of the case entered the background, many kept an eye on media reports. Various segments of the public debated the integrity of the investigation. Some called for reevaluating evidence or procedures. They sought to ensure that nothing like this would happen again. The sense of activism turned the emerging discussions into deeper inquiries into the law and how to support survivors effectively. Through it all, Carina's legacy persisted. The events surrounding her case reminded the community of the urgency surrounding mental health issues, support systems, and violence. The public discussed these topics more than ever. In schools, community centers, and social media, people stood together. The impact of Carina's story reached beyond time, inspiring others to join the fight against violence and injustice. Carina may have lost her life, but her story remained a powerful beacon. It sparked change, fostering conversations taking place across homes and streets alike, stitching together a community committed to justice and healing in the aftermath of tragedy. As the case of Carina Winters unfolded, many questions remained even after the trial. Justice was served when Daniel Acker was found guilty. His actions led to Carina's tragic passing, prompting the community to rally for change. However, the sense of closure was not complete. Carina's family and friends felt a mix of relief and sadness. While Daniel faced punishment, they would never see Carina again. In this sense, no outcome could bring her back, adding layers of grief to their experience. The case had lasting effects on the community. After the trial, conversations happened around issues like domestic violence and personal safety. Schools and organizations worked together to educate people about these problems. They created support systems for people facing similar dangers. More individuals began to share their stories, resulting in greater awareness among the public. This new understanding allowed residents to feel empowered in how they engaged with safety in their daily lives, viewing it as a shared responsibility. Police departments also recognized a need for change. Many agencies reviewed their practices in handling cases like Carina's. They aimed to improve relationships with the community. The hope was to provide reassurance and to build trust. New training techniques were explored for officers. This ultimately focused on handling sensitive cases with a better understanding of mental health. The goal remained clear: prevent such tragedies from happening again. As for Daniel Acker, his motivations became a significant point of discussion. What could lead someone to harm another person? Psychological studies tried to explore his background, and many suggested factors like jealousy and unresolved emotional conflicts may have played vital roles. Deep discussions surrounding personal accountability slowly emerged. They pushed the community to rethink their perceptions of individuals who might act in irresponsible ways due to mental health struggles. In the hearts of many, Carina's case served as a powerful reminder. The pain caused by violence extends beyond one person. It affects entire communities. People were left reflective about their personal connections, friendships, and how to promote healthier environments. They learned never to overlook subtle signs of problems around them. Though some aspects of the case were closed, it left room for continuous questioning. Could justice ever truly be served when a life is lost in such a tragic way? Many felt that true justice was not just about punishing the offender, but also ensuring the safety of others. It raised ideas about changing laws and ensuring that even small modifications could potentially save others from harm. As this case remained fresh in minds, it propelled conversations around support for survivors and victims of violence. It urged people to remain vigilant and involved. The community felt the weight of responsibility to take action. Carina's legacy pushed many to fill the gaps in conversation, including survivors' rights and the importance of mental health resources. In the end, could the story of Carina Winters inspire a positive change? Would it encourage open discussions that could help someone in need before they felt isolated? The journey through this tumultuous case has left indelible marks, evolving from pain to purpose, encouraging others to raise their voices. The community stood united, devoted to ensuring that Carina's story would not only be remembered, but would act as a catalyst for lasting impact.